Hello Noah and Beth. I thought I'd read you a bedtime story tonight. I have got Pinny's Holiday by Racer Helps. It's quite a long one, so I hope you don't mind. I'll let you see the picture first. It's a picture of somebody looking at a message on a front door. I wonder what it says. "How quiet it is today," said Pinny Needlekin one sunny morning to his friend Ponsonby the Vole. "We haven't seen anybody about since we came out. Let's call on Timothy and Lettuce and see if they can come out for a picnic." But when they reached the rabbit's home, they saw a notice had been pinned to the door. It read, "No milk, please. Gone away on holidays." Off they went to call on Diggywinks, the mole. When they reached his front door, there was another notice. This one said, "No bread, please. Gone away on holidays." "We seem to be the only people who haven't gone away for a holiday," said Pinny. "Then we will go too," squeaked Ponsonby. "Then we will go too," squeaked Ponsonby. "We'll go today." "Holidays cost a lot of pennies," sighed Penny. What have you got in your pocket?" Ponsonby felt in his pockets. It did not take long. "A hole in every one," he said. "What have you got in yours?" Pinny turned out his pockets. "A piece of string, a fluffy sweet, and a conker," he said, viewing the treasures. "I don't suppose they're worth very much." Oh, there's a picture on the next one, and it's Ponsonby and Pinny looking at a barrel. "We could sell something," suggested Ponsonby, "such as my whistling kettle. Only it doesn't." "Doesn't what?" asked Pinny. "Doesn't whistle," said Ponsonby. "It's got a little hole in the bottom, but it's a nice kettle." Pinny shook his head. "No," he decided, "I don't think we'd get much for that. We shall have to think of something else." They sat down and thought, and then they thought and thought. "I know," squeaked Ponsonby. "We'll have a camping holiday, and then we shan't need many pennies at all." "Only we haven't a tent," Pinny reminded him. "But a camping holiday would be nice." "We don't need a tent," said Ponsonby. "We could use that old cider barrel on top of Primrose Hill. We could use that for a tent. Come on, let's see if it's still there." And that's where they are, looking at the barrel. It was, and soon the pair were moving in with a few pots and pans, a blanket and a bag of food. They sat in the barrel and looked out happily at the setting sun. "Must be time for bed," said Pinny, yawning. "Oh, this old barrel is so rockety, we'll be rocked to sleep if a wind springs up." Oh, looking at what's happened during the night when it's dark. I can see a horse and a barrel, and it looks like it's rolling. Let's see. Now it so happened that in the middle of the night a wind did spring up, a big wind that tossed the branches of the trees to and fro and scattered leaves as if it thought autumn had come. It shook the barrel so furiously that the friends awoke, wondering why their bed was jumping about as if it had become alive. Pinny sat up and blinked out at the darkness. "My, it's a storm," he said. "Listen." The wind threw spatters of raindrops against the barrel, and Pinny began to wonder whether it was watertight. Then a bigger gust than ever took hold of the barrel and sent it rolling helter-skelter down the hill. Poor Pinny and Ponsonby scarcely knew what was happening as they spun round and round like tops. They could hear the barrel crashing through the bushes, bouncing over ditches and scraping the bark of trees. Something, thought Penny, was sure to stop them before they reached the river, but nothing did. Over the bank shot the barrel, still merrily spinning, and then with a big splash it was in the water and skimming into the middle of the river. Feeling as though they'd been in a spin dryer, they clung to each other and wondered what was going to happen next. "I don't like fishes much," said Ponsonby, "and I don't think fishes are very fond of me." "Fishes? We shan't have to worry about fishes," said Pinny. "See, the barrel isn't sinking, it's turned itself into a boat." And there they are, remember, rolling down the hill to the river. Oh, look at them. See the picture? They're in the barrel, floating in the river with all those lovely water lilies around them. It was true. Pinny poked his head over the edge of the barrel and peered into the gloom. "I can't see much," he told Ponsonby, blinking the rain from his eyes, "but I think we're drifting through water lilies. I suppose a boating holiday is just as nice as camping one," he said. "Only I wish we had a pair of oars or a sail, or even a rudder to steer by." "We've got a blanket," said Ponsonby, pulling it over their heads against the rain. "A blanket would make a nice sail. When it's daylight, we'll try to grab a drifting stick to use as a mast," he said. The strange craft floated downstream, sometimes turning in an eddy as if taking part in an old world dance, sometimes lingering against the water reeds, but always going on and carrying the friends further and further from home and always nearer the sea. As the sun came up, the slight mist that lay over the river melted away. Swifts and swallows dived and darted. There you are, can you see the swifts and swallows? Diving and darting, and then there's the dragonflies flying over the reeds. "It must be time for breakfast," said Pinny. They opened soggy paper bags and brought out soggy sandwiches. "Mine tastes a bit barrelly," said Ponsonby. Pinny thought his tasted funny too, but they munched away and then washed it down with lemonade from a bottle. From a glass bottle. After a while, Pinny put his head on one side and listened. "Can you hear something?" he said, "a sort of roaring sound." "Yes, I do hear something," squeaked Ponsonby. "What is it, do you think?" I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's a weir," said Pinny. "What's a weir?" asked Ponsonby. "Is it a sort of roaring fish?" "Didn't they teach you anything at school?" said Pinny. "Weirs are waterfalls. I think we're drifting straight towards a waterfall." By this time the noise was much louder and the barrel had begun to rush along twice as fast. "Hold tight, Ponsonby," cried Pinny above the roar. "We're going over at any moment." There they go, over the waterfall. It's turning into quite an adventure. And on that side you can see a picture of them later on. He was right. Over the edge and down with this cascading water went the barrel. Down, down into the white foam below. Here the barrel and the friends parted company, but Pinny managed to grab Ponsonby by the collar before they could be swept apart. As they raced along, Pinny saw a low-hanging branch ahead, its leaves just touching the water, and before they could be swept past, his fingers reached the branch. And they got themselves out of the water. "Look," said Ponsonby, "there's something moving on the bank." There they are on the branch. above the water, and look what is moving nearby. How many otters can you see? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there is, said Pinny. It's an otter family playing slides down the muddy bank. Very clearly now they could see the younger otters sliding and tumbling down the bank and diving into the water. Suddenly, right beneath their branch, a chain of bubbles appeared, then out came a flat, blunt-nosed head and 2 bright black eyes twinkled at them. "Hello, I saw what happened to your barrel," said the newcomer. "Jump down onto my back and I'll carry you ashore. Can't stay perched up there all day, you know." There they are, look. Being rescued by an otter. Somehow they managed to climb down and perch themselves astride their new friend's strong back. Ponsonby thought of all the big fish that might be passing by, and he clung on to Mr. Otter's thick, long whiskers. Mrs. Otter was on the shore to welcome them. She took their jackets and hung them over the rushes to dry. Look, there's Mother Otter. She's got their wet clothes. And there they are, without their jackets on. Dripping wet. "My word, you are wet," she said, as she took them into her cosy home under the bank. "I'm glad my children don't get as soaked as that." And she told them how all otters have 2 coats. One of thick grey fur next to the skin, and another one on top of long, thick, glossy hairs. "These hairs keep the water out," she said, "so you see we never get even damp." Mrs. Otter announced that lunch was all ready and that the 2 friends must stay and share it with them. Neither had exactly enjoyed their soggy sandwiches for breakfast, and they thought Mrs. Otter's cooking was the best they had ever tasted. Afterwards, Mr. Otter dived into the river and found their barrel. There he is, look, diving down to the bottom of the river to find their barrel. It was a little weedy, but none the worse for wear. Then Mr. Otter found a straight stick and set up a sail, and then made a rudder so that the barrel boat could be steered. By this time their coats were dry, so Pinny and Ponsonby thanked the otters for their kindness and set sail. "Wouldn't it be nice if we had Diggy Winks the mole with us?" said Pinny. "His hands are so strong he could row us back home against the tide." They began to sing a made-up song at the tops of their voices. I won't sing it, I'll just say it. "Oh, a boating life is free. Yes, that's the life for me. We'll sail along and sing this song, and soon we'll see the sea." They had not been singing long when there was a flapping of wings, and an angry-looking heron plopped down into the water right in front of them. The barrel boat bumped into his legs. And there they are, look, in their barrel boat with their lovely sail that's been made for them. And then there's Mr. Heron, who they just bumped into. Ponsonby looked at the heron's beak and decided it was too long and sharp. It is very long and sharp, isn't it? Look. Very long and sharp. "What an awful noise," croaked the heron. "Don't you know that you're frightening away the fishes? Frightening away the fishes for miles. Now, what am I going to do for my dinner?" Mrs. Otter had packed up fresh sandwiches for them, so they said they were sorry about the fish and offered them to him. "Fishermen like the river to be quite quiet," said the heron, swallowing the sandwich whole. He took another. "If you must sail on the river, remember to do it without any noise." "It was silly of us," Pinny admitted, after the heron had flapped away. "We shan't see many things if we frighten everything away. We'll sing our sea shanties in whispers." And they did see things. They saw a moorhen paddle out from among the reeds, followed by a string of tiny black chicks. There's the moorhen. And then they saw a kingfisher dive head first into the water after a fish. There it is, diving head first into the water after a fish. The sailors waved to all as they passed, but they were careful not to call out, except that is when Ponsonby caught sight of his cousin Walter Vole, who was sitting on a little raised platform in front of his home. "Hello, Ponsonby," shouted Walter. "Come over and tie up while I look you over. My, I haven't seen you for a long time." Pinny steered in among the other boats and tied up. So there they are. Boats for hire. They're looking very happy. The front of the house was made of reeds and rushes, but most of it was cut out of the bank, and Pinny thought it was snug. It smelt of watermint. Walter said they must certainly stay for tea, as he did not have the chance of a family chat very often. Just as they were going to sit at the table, a frog looked in, and at a moment later a newt put in his head and said, "Is that tea I can smell brewing?" So they made it quite a party, with Walter doing a hornpipe and Hoppy Frog singing the Jolly Waterman in a croaky voice, while Norman Newt told such funny stories they scarcely stopped laughing. There you are, there's Frog popping his head round the door, and there's the tea party. There's Frog and Newt and Pinny and Ponsonby and Walter all having a tea party together. When Frog and Newt had gone, Cousin Walter begged the friends to spend the rest of their holiday with him. "We will stay for a couple of days," said Pinny. "Then we will try to reach the seaside." That night they slept in Cousin Walter's spare bunks, which Pinny thought was just like sleeping on board a big ship, and they spent the next day learning from him how to sail boats, for Walter was an expert waterman. When it was time to go, Cousin Walter would not dream of letting them get into what he called that contraption of a barrel. And there they are, having lessons on how to sail boats properly. "I will lend you one of my boats, a real boat," he said. "You can return to me just whenever you like. And if you want any help at any time, just send a kingfisher for me. They all know me on this stretch of the river." So the friends left the barrel still tied up at Cousin Walter's and set sail in a real boat. "Don't forget you can always have a river holiday with me," called Walter as he waved bye-bye. Pinny and Ponsonby waved back until a bend in the river hid him from view. At last, as evening shadows fell across the water, they saw that the river was widening into a bay. "We've reached the sea at last," cried Pinny. When they had taken down the sail and tied up, they wandered along to the sandy beach. The sky was yellow with the setting sun, and the sea looked like melted gold. "We'll have our supper among the rocks," said Pinny, while we watched the sun go down, and then he gasped. "Just look over there," he cried. "It's a mermaid sitting on a rock." But it wasn't a mermaid, it was their old friend Diggy Winks, who had been for an evening swim with his rubber fish. There's Diggy Winks, the mermaid, and there they are on the beach with the lovely setting sun. "Hello, boys," he beamed when he saw them. "Fancy meeting you here. Where are you staying?" Pinny explained that what had happened since they first started their adventure. "Then you must stay with me and Timmy and Lettuce," nodded Diggy, beaming through his spectacles. "We're all camping on the cliffs, and there's plenty of room for 2 more in my tent." "And you can all share our boat," laughed Pinny. "We've become expert sailors, you know." "As you have a boat, tomorrow we will all visit Selina Seal, who lives on the rock beyond the bay," said Diggy. "Yes," thought Pinny happily, "this is going to be the very best holiday I've ever had." And there they are in their tent by the sea. That's a very long story. I hope you're still awake. Night, night, God bless. Sleep tight.